to me that the show that has some sense of shame left. They're eating muffins. That looks like a ribbon. They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you call? But I haven't had the call. They're looking at us. What's effrontery? They're approaching. That's very bold of them. Let us maintain a dignified silence. Certainly. That is the only thing left to do. This dignified silence produces an unpleasant effect. A most distasteful one. But we will not be the first to speak. Certainly not.
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
His answer certainly seems like a most satisfactory one, does it not? Yes, dear, if you can't believe him. I don't, but that does not dismiss the beauty of his answer. True. And master is very important. Style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, that explanation you offered to me for having to pretend to have a brother, was it in order that my lord come to town to visit me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have a great doubt upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. Not proper time for German skepticism. The answer seems to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it. I'm more than content with what Mr. Humphrey said. His voice alone inspires absolute credulity. And you think we should forget them? Yes. I mean, no. True. I have forgotten. There are principles at stake that one must not surrender. But if I should tell them, the task is not a pleasant one. Could we not both speak at the same time? An excellent idea. One was to always speak at the same time as other people. Perhaps you will take the time to be wrong to, certainly. Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all?
But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to be a terrible thing. For me, are willing to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
How absurd to talk the equality of sexes. What questions of self-sacrifice are concerned? Men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
It's the signs of physical courage that we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Good heavens!
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that. I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young and weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, by my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small toy, I followed her here forth by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am pleased to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not intend to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him. I would think wrong. But of course you, sir, will understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, and indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, no, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at the present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
I killed Bunbury this afternoon. Poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury, he was quite exploded.
Was he the victim of revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he was well punished for his morbidity.
What I meant was Bunbury was found out. The doctors found out he could not live. Oh, Bunbury died.
He seems to have had a great amount of confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he made up his mind at the last and acted under proper medical advice. Now that we have gotten rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask Mr. Worthing, who is this young person whose hand my nephew Algernon seems to me to be holding in a somewhat unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are going to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know if there's anything particularly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seem to me to be considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I do not believe that some preliminary inquiry on my part will be out of place. Mr. Wood, is Miss Cardew at all connected to any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any persons or families whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Southwest, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporring, Fifthshire, NB.
Three addresses always inspires confidence, even tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known strange airs in that publication.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby, a firm at the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that Mr. Markby is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I have also on my possession, you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the English and German variety.
Ah, a light with incident, I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Come here, the time for our departure approaches. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, only about £130,000 in the funds, that is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell, so pleased to see you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000. And in the funds, Miss Cardew seems to me to be a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities that last and improve with time. Come here, sweet child. Dear child, your dress is sadly simple, and your hair is almost as nature might have left it. Although we can soon alter all that. Indeed, a thoroughly experienced French maid produces really marvelous results in a very brief space of time. I recall recommending one to dear Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn around, sweet child. No, the side view is what I want. Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The chin, a little high, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high, just at present. Algernon?
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care twopence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Dear child, you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon, but I myself do not approve of mercenary marriages. Indeed, when I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind. But you could hardly imagine that I ever dreamed of allowing that to stand in my way. I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also call me Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I myself am not in favor of long engagements. It gives people time to find out each other's character before marriage. I think this never advisable.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Mrs. Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of legal age. And that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may almost say, ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more could one desire?
It pains me to have to speak frankly to you about your own nephew, Lady Bracknell, but the fact is I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He is an Oxonian.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about it. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house under the pretense of being my brother. Under a false name, he drank, I have just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet Rouge 89, wine I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing in his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed for tea and devoured every single month. And what makes his conduct all the more harmless is that he was well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I never had any brother, and that I certainly don't intend to have a brother in the future, not even of any kind. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, sweet child. How old are you, dear?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 at evening parties.
You are quite right in making some slight altercations. Indeed, no woman should be ever quite accurate about her age, being so calculating. 18, but admitting to 20 at dinner parties. Well, it will not be long before you become of age and are free from the restraints of tutelage. So your guardian's consent is, after all, not a matter of vital importance.
Pray excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell, but it is only fair that I should inform you that, according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not legally come of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. London society is full of women of the very highest worth who have remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is an instance in point. To my own knowledge, she has remained at the age of 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear sweet Cecily should not be even more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present.
Algie, could you wait for me until I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know what I mean.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I don't think I could wait all that time. I'm not punctual, but I like punctuality in others. And waiting even to be married is just out of the question.
Then what shall we do, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Montfrey.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait till she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to show a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But, my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The minute you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, can decide for himself. Come, dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
But
everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir. Is that not somewhat premature?
These gentlemen have expressed the desire to be christened this afternoon.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he found out that this was the way you spent your time and money.
Am I to take it then that there are to be no christenings this afternoon? I don't think that, as things are now, it would be of much practical value to either of us, Dr. Chastel. That is very sad to hear from you, Mr. Worthing. It savors of the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views which I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. But as your particular mood seems secular of late, I shall return to the church, where I have just been informed by the pew opener that Miss Prism has been waiting for me for a full hour and a half.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am just going to see her now.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and a very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. Dare I ask what position she holds in your household?
Madam, I am celibate. Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I have been waiting there for you for an hour and 3/4.
Prism? Come here, Prism. Prism? Where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, up at Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. After the elaborate search of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with much shame that I do not know. I only wish that I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me an old but capacious handbag, in which I intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
Where did you deposit that handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
In one of the globe rooms of one of the larger railway stations in London.
Which railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you're not too long, I will wait for you all my life.
What do you suppose this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare even suspect, Dr. Chesbrook. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur.
Uncle Jack seems oddly irritated.
Your uncle has a very emotional nature.
This noise is most unpleasant. It sounds as though he were having an argument. I dislike arguments of any kind. They are always vulgar and often convincing.
It seems to have stopped.
I wish you'd arrive at some conclusion.
This is terrible. I hope it will last.
This is the handbag. Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
Seems to be mine. Yes, there is an injury received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And there is a stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that happened at Leamington. And there on the lock are my initials. I'd forgotten that in an extravagant mood I could assist them. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly returned to me. It has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than just this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes. Mother!
I am unmarried.
Unmarried? Now tonight that is a serious blow. But who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out a single act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
There has been some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive. But would you inform me who I am?
I am afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's brother. So, I have a brother after all. I always knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chapman, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Whitney, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you young scoundrel, you will have to treat me with a little more respect in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Not sure today, I must admit, old boy. However, I was a little out of practice.
My own. Well, what own are you? Now that you have become someone else, what is your Christian name?
Good heavens, I'd quite forgotten that point. Your own decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change, except in my affection. Well, then you have such a noble nature.
And the question had better be cleared up at once. A moment, Aunt Augusta. At the time when Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy was lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
So, then I was christened. And that's a settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the eldest, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's name was, but I'm sure he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years, and that was due to the Indian climate and indigestion and marriage and other things of that sort.
Algy, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear fellow, we were never on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear on the army lists of the period, I suppose, Aunt Augusta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I'm sure that his name would appear in any military directory.
The army list of the last 40 years are here. These delightful vessels should have been my constant study. Ah, engines. Malum, Maxwell, Magley, what ghastly names they have. Marchby, Nigsby, Hobbs, Moncrief, Lieutenant, 1840. Lieutenant, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General, 1869. Christian names, Ernest John. I always told you my name was Ernest, but it isn't that. Well, it is Ernest. I mean, it naturally is Ernest.
Yes, now I recall that the general's name was Ernest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking that name.
My own Ernest. I'm here for the first. You could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out quite suddenly that all his life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Have you forgiven me?
I can't. For I feel certain you are to change.
Gwendolyn, at last.
Cecily, at last.
Letitia! My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Augusta, I've realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.